Okay, everybody, welcome back. Combat Chat Podcast episode. I didn't check what number episode this is. Episode some number. Beautiful sunny weekend here in Sydney. But we have got a legend of Muay Thai from the Sunshine State on the other side of the line. So I won't talk too long. Mr. Nugget McNaught, how are you this afternoon, sir?
I'm pretty good, mate. How are you?
I'm doing very well and really looking forward to getting stuck into this conversation. Been really excited to speak with you. We've had a lot of guests recently, and I think this episode and what we're going to touch on is going to tie really well into what we've been talking around Muay Thai. But before we get stuck into a lot of what we were just talking about before we started recording as well, we like to give our guests the chance to give their history a little bit, to tell their story. So you are a former promoter of really a show that is still regarded as one of the top Muay Thai promotions in the country's history in evolution. Currently operating NTG Fight and Fitness up there in Queensland. So give us a little bit. I think most people who are listening to us on Spotify, who are watching this on YouTube, are probably here because they know who you are. But for people that are a little bit newer, maybe less familiar, give us a little bit of kind of your history, your background in the sport, and how you got started.
Yeah, my name's Nugget. I'm from Queensland. I started training when I was 13 in karate in Zendo Kai, Bob Jones Karate, and then obviously through time looked for something a little bit more competitive, and I found Muay Thai, and yeah, the realism of fighting and stuff. And yeah, I suppose at 17 years old, I walked into a gym, learned how to skip. It was actually the police youth club in the Valley, and at 17 years old. And then a year later, I started doing Thai boxing sort of thing, and away I went.
So you have a pretty kind of storied history of sort of promoting and gym owning. I know when I was coming up in the sport, because I'm 24, so the time that I was kind of starting to compete, it was kind of, evolution had already sort of kind of gone in, had already kind of come and gone. But I remember when I was a kid, I read International Kickboxer a lot.
The Bible of Thai boxing.
Yeah, I think I got a subscription for my 15th birthday, so it used to come in the post. And one of my first introductions to Muay Thai was I would read the stories about NTG, and there was an infamy about it, about the way that these guys trained. And Dane Daddy Cool was one of my favorite fighters, and we've had Gott on the podcast before, and I just fanboy over him. I think he's unreal. So tell a little bit about kind of, if you will, some of your highlights as a promoter and a gym owner, first of all.
I think. Well, looking at my gym, I started the gym the same time I had my first fight. So I've started getting into fight sport at 17. By 18, I'd had my first fight, and it just went from there. And like the gym, people talk about the culture at my gym, and it's a tough gym, this and that. I think it was just a tough era of time. We started when we were training. There's no jigsaw mats. There's no zebra mats. We trained on the concrete. We had a bit of carpet. We thought we were good because we had carpet on the ring and that. So as far as the gym goes, I think just over time, it's built its reputation through the fighters I've created. And as far as the shows, like I wouldn't say about being smart, but I realized fighter, then a trainer, and then I had the next step. I had to be a promoter because there wasn't the fights. There wasn't what I saw when I traveled, when in an early age, like what to see, like big events and this and that. Like a lot back then, France, England, they had big shows with Thais and that. And I think my good friend Josh Sexton and I just got together and thought, you know what, we're just going to build a platform that actually we can train people, they can fight, and they can actually show their worth on TV.
Yeah, and this is a big part of what I think I was keen to get into with. So I'm very interested to hear you mention there, you had travelled a lot around the world and you saw shows overseas that there wasn't a similar product here in Australia. And Evolution was very much, it was something very different. Like it was a grand show. If people are unfamiliar, there's a lot of it on YouTube. You can see it was the promotion of promotions. What do you feel like? So you say there are shows in other countries, they'll bring in high level ties, for example. Maybe that's not what was happening here. What was missing when you said this is what we need to do with Evolution, and when you set out, what were the key things that you weren't seeing?
I think if anyone's really honest in Thai boxing now, that's from, I'm not talking about guys that have been in the sport 5 years, 2 years. I'm talking guys 15, 20 years. I think it lacks structure, and it lacks, like, you know, like NRL, they've got a like a league. You know, you've got like a scoring system. There's a point system to it. Everyone just lives in their own little world in fight sport and thinks, oh yeah, I'm the king of this. I got it from when I first, not my early trips to Thailand, but from 2012 when I went over. I was a trainer, I was a promoter. I've got to Thailand. They don't care. They want to see what you've got. If you say you're a trainer, they want to see you train people. I think when I was younger, I was very fortunate to Lolo help, because taking myself and my own fighters over there to fight, he put on shows every Thursday night at the Mandalay, or once a month at the Mandalay, and then he did big shows at, I think it was ABS Stadium or something there, where Ray Sefu and that would fight. And I got to see that people actually wanted to pay money to go to these big events. And I think myself and Josh, like, we didn't just, everyone thinks of Evo like when it was in its prime and the big runway and like everything, the production and everything. But what people forget is Josh and I did our first show in 1998, and it was at West Leagues Club or something like that. You know what I mean? And the main event was Humpty versus Shannon Forrester, and it was a bloodbath. But like the thing people forget, they think they can jump in and make quick money. You've got to do your apprenticeship, any business in any trade. You've got to learn. You make mistakes, you fail. Your failures turn into like your lessons of success later. So Evolution was really just a projection of what we did our whole lives.
So do you think, I guess, people remember the finished product when it comes to Evo, but maybe then they don't give enough consideration to what the building blocks were?
100% you. They don't see, all right, I'm going to use a gay word, the process. They don't see the process of it. Like, man, when I'm young, no one talked like that. My dad would slap me over the head, or the process, or I reached out, or I did this. The world's getting gayer by the minute. But if people look at Muay Thai at the grassroots of where it began, and in Queensland, I had Paul Briggs in the other day for spar. Well, he had brought some boys here to spar, and some of I was embarrassed. Some of my own guys didn't know who Paul Briggs was. Paul Briggs was the biggest talent in the whole of Australia. There was Darren Hancock, and then there went Paul Briggs as far as like fighting talents go. And to have him in the gym and see him, like, he still loves boxing today, like I love Thai boxing. You know what I mean? It was crazy. But going through that, like, we talked about Malcolm Anderson. Father, they used to do events. Me and Paul used to fight on their events. Like, so people always think of the glitz and glamour and like, oh, how much money are you going to get? Man, I was fighting for $500. I was $250. I remember Joe Hilton one time. They didn't pay me after a fight, and they slipped me $250 and said, "Oh, that'll do you, won't it?" What are you going to do, mate? It's like you're building stuff together.
Yeah. So I guess there's a lot to kind of unpack from that. I suppose, do you think we've got sort of like what I have found, or I guess what you sort of observe is a lot since in the time that, you know, Evo was on Foxtel, it was kind of a part of a network of shows that were sort of, I guess, working together. So most of the time on a Friday night when you put on Fox Sports, there was one of a few shows on. And they kind of shared a couple of marquee fighters, so it kind of built those guys' brands. And you could go to the pub, and Fox Sports would be on, and you'd watch, Evo, or maybe Knees of Fury was another one. I remember had these guys. What I think one of the main differences is, compared to Evolution, in the time since, big shows have come. Like, we've got a lot of consistent kind of grassroots developmental shows, and we've had big grand shows kind of come and go, but not really kind of set their feet in Australia, barring kind of Rebellion's probably really the only one. There's kind of Rebellion being the top tier show, and then you've got more so now it's growing kind of that second tier. But then I guess what I think you see is every now and then a big show comes along and it tries to really do what Evo did, but it comes and it goes.
I get what you're saying. Whereas like nothing stays. It's like, hey, I don't want to sound like a rude cunt, but really, I see these guys. They're going to be the big old event. Some idiot beast guy. I'm going to do this big show. I'm going to do this. Man, you put on a shitty little show. You put kids as your main events, and you charge $80 or something for a ticket. No wonder the sport won't grow. If they look back, Evolution grew because it was 3 times a year. We had other shows around that. Paul Demacoli with Eruption, the Fogarty brothers with Detonate. We had Mark Pease with War on the Shore. We all worked together as a team. It wasn't one promoter's going to be the boss and take over the whole world. It can't happen. If you look in Thailand, it's not just one promoter. Yes, there's 2 major stadiums. Yes, there's Channel 7 on Sunday. But all those promoters work together. They've all got their own boys. They've all got their own thing. But they would definitely and discuss what's going on and what's best for the sport and what's best for their pocket. These promoters that think they're going to put on these shows and we're going to do one show and it's going to be the greatest show, you're kidding yourself. You have to start. Sai's doing it perfectly. He's got Roots, then he's got Rebellion. You can't beat that. Mark the Hammer, doing it good, Warriors way. Blair, Darren Kurovic, they got Domination. All these other new promoters, it's like they don't respect what the older promoters have done. I suppose 7.5 years out of the country, everyone says, I got a big ego, this and that. But as far as the promoting goes, I just laugh. If someone says, we're the next Evolution, I just say, good on you, mate. Then I know they're not going to be around next month. But I think it's about working together. And like right now, a lot of people say, Nugget, are you going to do Evo again? Are you going to do Evo again? Well, guess what, guys? I'm not. Because why would I backdoor my mate, Paul Demacoli, who's been working for the last 7.5 years as hard as he could to build up Eruption? Why would I do that? And why would I go against Sai? Why would I go against Hammer? Why would I go against anyone? It's you've got to have a team. Even if you don't feel like you're in the team, you've got to work like a team. And I think my help now with Eruption, people will see, even though it's a quality event already, they will see the changes in a lot of different things. Paul Demacoli is open to hearing things, and he's he's been in the sport 30-something years. Man, I remember taking down a fighter in Melbourne and meeting him years ago when Anthony Valor was fighting. So when you hear all this stuff of these new promoters, they've been in the sport 2 years. They've done the old KFC fast pack and away they go. They don't really know the sport, and they're just trying to make money. It's not about, if you don't love what you're doing, you're never going to be successful. If you don't love Muay Thai and you just want to make money, go get a job. Go start a company or something.
All right. So a little bit of technical difficulties, but on the viewer side, we'll just have that sitting side by side nicely. Nugget, you were just getting on a roll, so I'm sorry that you had to get stopped there, but we'll just get right back on the same point.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, like, why would I come back to Australia and start Evo again when I can help my best mate run a show that's already existing? So as far as me doing Evolution again, I don't think so, and I don't think the Queensland Police would like it either. They had their own thoughts on it. So yeah, I'll probably just stick with helping Mr. D at the moment. But who knows? I actually wouldn't mind doing MMA events, to be honest, or something new. I don't know. If I was going to do something, I'm not going to do something I've already done. I've already done that and succeeded. I want to do something new and challenge myself.
That's interesting. So when you say, like, if you were to promote again, it would be possibly more so in line with kind of MMA. Is that purely just because you've done Thai boxing, or in the time since you last promoted Thai boxing, has MMA taken your interest a bit more?
I'm definitely MMA's taken my interest. Just UFC. Like I wasn't really a UFC fan. I went to my first ever UFC in 2015 in Brazil when I went over to help the Nogueira brothers train, and that's the first time I actually saw UFC. I had never even really TV or nothing. And then from there, I Conor McGregor popped up, and obviously, like anyone, hey, he's a very charismatic guy, and it made me interested in MMA. And then obviously, different fighters that I saw fighting, but it's just the fact I like fighting. It's not that I'm just Muay Thai or I'm just boxing or I actually just like fighting. And as I've gone, like from 2015. I started looking at wrestling and that. Like I like a little bit of it. And obviously before leaving for Thailand in 2012, I spent a lot of mornings, a lot of years training with Adrian Pang. So that was something a bit diverse for me, like doing something different. Like I'd be on the ground. Hey, he used to nickname me the koala because I'd just hang on because I didn't know what to do. So yeah, like as far as that sort of stuff goes, I think that gets me going down the MMA roots of things. And now at the gym, we've got Justin Taffer and Junior Taffer and Gerard, the coach, and also Junior's littlest brother, Pati. They're all great fighters. They all and they're wrestling and they'll do anything. They'll whatever is going to make them some money. They jump in and give it a go.
And also, at one thing I was interested in, I've been to your gym a couple of times now. It's unreal. Like, if you haven't seen the facility, people listening, jump on Instagram and have a look at NTG Fight and Fitness. The facility's absolutely beautiful. It's like an absolute combat sports playground. There's a full-size competition ring, MMA cage, conditioning area, everything. And you actually wheel in grandstand seats and put on full-on fight shows inside the gym. Talk a little bit about what Friday night fights under the lights has been like. What's the objective with that?
Well, first of all, I go on the gym. I wouldn't have this gym if it wasn't for Tricky Trevor Lyons from Gumdale, and also Paul Demacoli. We're business partners, and we all I had a meeting in Melbourne one trip with Hammer and that. And like I was just getting sick of being in Asia, and I just once you stay there long enough, you realise that it's not a holiday anymore. It actually becomes quite hideous to the brain dealing with monkeys every day. But I came back to Australia, and they said, "Oh, let's start a gym." I jumped onto it and said, "Okay," and I think it was the best move I've made in my life. So. The whole, it's still the same thing, Hugh. It's a team. There's a team that run this gym, and that's where Friday Night Fights Under the Lights came. Steve Wajenko, our boxing coach, and also one of the main manager here, looked over everything and said, "Hey, we could run shows here." And then Paul Demacoli, seasoned promoter, says, "Fuck it." And then Tricky Trev says, "Okay, if you boys want to do it, give it a go." So we've run two. First one was good. Second one was even better, and I even had the Queensland Police come down and look at the second one, and they left happy. So I if you can't, hey, I must be doing something right. I'd be getting
all the boxes. Yeah, beautiful. And so, like you mentioned, kind of maybe dipping your toes in MMA, promoting particularly in your fancy. Are we going to see some MMA fights on Friday night fights?
I don't get people excited, and I don't want the Muay Thai, the purists saying, "Oh, Nugget, he's gone to the dark side." But I don't know what I would do. If I was to promote, I don't think I would promote a Muay Thai based show because we already have eruption in Queensland, and there's no need to battle it out. But there's enough idiots. I don't even want to name names, but there's enough idiots in Queensland. You don't need to rock the boat, sort of thing. I think the next year and a half to 2 years, people will see why Eruption is the most quality show in Queensland. And for myself, why am I going to try to take money out of my friend's pocket? You know what I mean? When we can all work still as a team and do something else, make something new. You know, who knows? We might even get into that bare knuckle boxing. I don't mind that either. Yeah. There's so many options.
Yeah.
This is another, I don't want to sound like an old, cranky old bastard, but like people forget I'm 50 this year. I'm 50 years old. I've been in this sport since I was 17 years old. I started when I was 13 as a kid. I never thought at 13 that I'm going to be in this sport forever. I thought I was just doing it for fun. Then as life went on, these are the cards life dealt, and here I am still in fight sport. I think I've deserved the right to pick what I want to do next. Whereas some of these other guys come into the sport after 2 to 5 years and think that they run it. They don't even know. I've forgotten more about fight sports than half these idiots. And that's in and out of the ring, you know, business and fighting.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I guess a big part of what I wanted to get your thoughts on from this episode, so you've touched on it a couple of times. There was a period of a number of years where, so there's that era that we discussed where NTG was a real powerhouse fight team. Like a lot of the top fighters in Australia were trained by you. You were promoting, and today NTG Fight and Fitness is back, but there was a big gap where you were overseas and the gym had kind of, your involvement in Australian Muay Thai had kind of ceased, you know, while you travelled. What I want to understand is now, in the last couple of years coming back, what are your thoughts on the scene in coming back and starting to attend shows again, see how these gyms and fighters operate? What's different? What's changed? What are your thoughts?
Completely honest, Hugh. If I'm completely honest, I don't really go to many shows. I don't really go, like, I don't know how you'd say it. I don't really go to, I don't know. I don't go to these little shows. You know what I mean? I don't want to sound rude, but like, it's. I know what I'm going to think if I go to them, so I don't go because it breaks my heart. Like it really crushes me to see. I left Australia in 2012, and anyone can say what they want, bikey, this, that, the other. I still left. My gym still had top fighters, some of the top fighters in the country. My events were top notch. I've left, I've come back, and I see dudes running around with 20 million amulets, like they're wearing Pacamars at the ring. Like the trainers are wearing them now, not just the fighter representing the gym. The trainers have got them on before that. Like guys like Pinky, guys that have lived in Thailand, I get it. Like, hey, you can't take it away. Pinky speaks fluent Thai. You know, a lot of stuff about not just Thai boxing, but Thai culture in general. But these idiots that just try to imitate everything, they see it on YouTube or they see it on Instagram or they see it somewhere, they just don't get that they're not helping the sport. Imitating and like I understand imitation, greatest form of flattery, all of that, but don't bastardize stuff. Don't try to make out like you know things about subjects that you don't, and then just because you heard someone say it, you put your little opinion on it. It just changes everything from promoting, training, being a fighter. You look at the fighters today. I feel they're all entitled. They all think you owe them something. You know what I mean? I had a bikini model working for me that thought that we owed her the world. Just idiots. Like they get in the sport and they think they're going to do all this greatness, but they've never done greatness. They've never done anything to take the title of saying, yeah, I did that. Man, it takes, for example, I have a young bloke that works here, Max now. He's with me every day. I torture that kid mentally and physically in training and work. He runs the coffee shop for us. Man, he's like a pig in mud. He loves it here. He gets to train. He gets to do everything. But it's about not expecting stuff. Like if you go into something expecting everything, man, like I said at the beginning of the thing, we trained on concrete. We grappled on carpet, on concrete. There was no, maybe don't throw them that hard. You just got thrown on the ground. And through time, and don't get me wrong, jigsaw mats, zebra mats, everything, like everything that's good for the sport makes it better. But never forget the roots of fighting. Fighting is about hardship. Fighting is about, if you go into a fight and you think you're not going to get hit, you're in the wrong sport. Go do ballet. Go do dancing. Go hang out at old people's homes. Look after them. Play something. Do something good for the community. But don't call yourself a fighter if you don't want to get hit or you don't want to take hard fights. There's another one. I see all these guys. There's so many belts. Like, I get confused. There's so many belts. Instagram, there's belts hanging off guys everywhere. This guy and man, they've all got phenomenally good bodies. Everybody's got a great body. Everybody's got abs. Everybody looks $1 million, but you can't fight. You're kidding yourself. You're kidding your family. You're kidding your mates. You're kidding the crowd. You can't fight. You're useless. You're actually not even up to scratch. But in this era, I read a shirt the other day. I nearly vomited. The new age kings or new era kings. What are you thinking? You've never done nothing in your life, and you're wearing a shirt that says you're a king. I've been in this sport for 30 odd years. I would never wear a shirt that says I'm a king. I would never claim to be a king. I get embarrassed when people say, like, oh, you're like a god, you're like this, you're like that of Muay Thai. I'm just a bloke. I'm an Aussie bloke that grew up with a mum, no broken foam, dad and mum that went to work. And one day my dad said, hey, what are you going to do for a job? And I said, I'm going to be a professional fighter. Boom, kick me out the house. See you later. Go get yourself. Boy, that's life, man. And you got to do your thing. And I don't dislike my dad for that. I don't say, oh, my dad didn't support me. He just didn't understand. And at that time, you couldn't say at a party, oh, yeah, what do you do for a job? Oh, yeah, I'm a professional Muay Thai fighter. They just look at you. Nowadays, with Foxtel, the internet, Instagram, man, you say everyone's an MMA fighter. Everyone's I'm a UFC fighter. I'm an MMA fighter. Like, man, I meet that many fighters and think, oh, what's going on with the world? So, yeah, it's one of those things. I don't think, to be honest, in the whole world, I don't think you'll ever balance that out where it's real. Mm-hmm. But if the people that have the ability to call a spade and to say, hey, pull up, don't do that. If I don't say this, I'm letting the sport down. I'm letting the fans down. I'm letting the fighters down, and I'm letting the trainers and promoters down. If someone listens to this and says, "Oh, you're a fuckwit, Nugget," I don't care, but it's the truth. Don't think that I'm not here trying to build myself up. I've done enough in my career. I've done enough. No one will ever be. I had my own gym at 18 years old. I was a good. I was an all right fighter. I'm not going to say the best, but I was all right. I was a good trainer. Trained a lot of fighters. Became a good promoter. Then when I went overseas, became national team Malaysia 2013. I was the national coach for Singapore, specialist coach for maybe 3-4 years. Man, there's no one in this lifetime till I'm over that's going to get those credentials. So when people hear my opinion, they might say I'm rude and arrogant, but I've done the work. It's like what dude that made the iPhone? Who's that guy?
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs, man, who can argue with Steve Jobs? He made the iPhone. He's Apple.
Yeah.
You can't argue with that guy on tech stuff. You're an idiot if you try to. So I'm not saying I'm the greatest, but I've been around long enough. Mark the Hammer, been around long enough. Johnny Skidder in Melbourne, been around long enough. Guys in Perth, Pon Mardi, been around long enough. We argue with these young people on how they think the sport should be. The sport should be exactly how it should. It shouldn't just change. Yes, things change, and there's always time for change and to get better, but not if it's bettering only one person's pocket or bettering one person's reputation. There's always a structure to everything, and once you lose structure, you lose everything. And I'm not talking about the whole of Australia, but if I look at Queensland, whoa, we lost structure. We definitely lost structure.
So there's a lot of points to get into there, and a lot of things that I want to kind of expand on. But just in kind of getting to what you touched on there, I think, I guess, is what you're saying, like the way things work now, where perhaps in the past, if I'm a young promoter, if I'm in Queensland and I've said, I want to get into the promoting game, I want to build a promotion, do you think today, with the prevalence of social media and the way that everyone can be can decide they're a bit of a celebrity, do you think the way that it's working now is people are coming in and they're trying to just sort of insert themselves at the top, like they're coming in like, right, I'm going to be the top dog at this, rather than going, who can I talk to? How do I learn from someone who's done it, and kind of just enter at the bottom? Do you think that's kind of the way it's working?
There's no apprenticeships done anymore. There's no, and I'll say this, the young boy I've got at my gym, his name is Max Rooney. And there's a lot of people that'll hear that and say, who's Max Rooney? You don't know him yet. We call him Bone Man now. He'll fight as Bone Man NTG. That kid, if he continues the way he's going he's just turned 21, if he continues at this, he will be, like they say, you said at the beginning of the thing, I'm a legend of the sport, blah, blah, blah. He'll be the next legend, in my opinion, as a fighter, then a trainer. And who knows, he might promote, he might not. But like you say, is there a right way of doing it? Yeah, there is. If you think you want to be a promoter and you're a young bloke and you're not, you've done university, whatever. I'm not taking the piss out of educated people. You've done university, you've done this and that, you got the figures down and everything. Ring Paul Demicoli. Yep. Ring I and say, hey, is there anything I can do? Can I come and help you at your show? Learn your way. The perfect example of this is Steve Wajenko, our boxing coach and the guy who came up with Friday Night Fights Under the Lights with us. Steve did his apprenticeship under Angelo DiCarlo. Angelo DiCarlo and his family, famous boxing people in Queensland, good friends with Jeff Fennick, not being a name dropper, but many different, like many big names. Angelo DiCarlo's promoted heaps of dudes. Steve did his apprenticeship, done shows, done it the right. If I look at him, he's done it the right way. Hey, he's made some money on some shows, he's lost some money, and he's learned a lot of lessons out of it. I think a lot of guys forget there's always a right way about doing something. You know what I mean? And sometimes you do mistake and don't do it the right way. But if you can own up and say, hey, I made a mistake today, it's better on you. If you're going to say, no, I never make a mistake. No, I'm never making a mistake. You're never going to get anywhere.
You think people are kind of held back by their egos in getting
for
started?
Sure. Everybody wants to be the next big name, whether it's promoter. Just do something for the sport. Do something for people. Do something to help someone each day.
Yeah, absolutely. And in kind of as we got into that topic, one of the things that you touched on was, we've talked about kind of why promoters getting into it are maybe not going about it the right way. They're being a little bit too egotistical. They're trying to kind of, rather than looking to become a part of a network, everyone wants to be the next superstar promoter.
Big thing. Yeah, and sometimes you've just got to be. I always said this about my gym. NTG is like a brick wall, and in that wall, there's many bricks, and each brick support each other, and each part of it, you can't take. If you take that brick out, maybe it falls over. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you look at promoting, and if you look at, like, I don't know, there's so many people want to be the biggest. Just be the best promoter you can be and do the right thing by the fighters. do the right thing by the fans, put on good fights, pay the boys and girls properly, like make people understand that you are trying to help the sport, not just come for a 2-year rape and then go do whatever, go be a, I don't know, a real estate man or something. Whatever you want to be.
So off of that, there's obviously in growing the sport, or even in a lot of senses, growing it back to where it used to be. I actually think Australian Muay Thai, as far as its fanfare and popularity, it's sitting below where it was probably 10 years ago. The other side of that coin is, of course, the fighters themselves. You mentioned at the start, and this was one of the points you made on our friend Matt Lucas's podcast, was that you touched on there, fighters being so, well, the first point we'll make is the kind of, because you're someone who spent a lot of time in Thailand, you understand intricately Muay Thai at its most traditional. A lot of people might expect you to think of the sport as, you know, really being the fighters here should be upholding these traditions. But you mentioned that there's a lot of copying going on, people that don't really understand the roots, just kind of doing it because they've seen it. Just kind of expand on that, if you would.
I just think what I see is people are forgetting the fighting part of Muay Thai, and they're trying to dress it up and flash it up and make, like, hey, I've got suck yarn all over me. I see all these dudes running around with yarn on them and that. And everyone, hey, you got Matt Reed, learned the right way to do it in Thailand. Pink, they know their stuff. I see guys running around and they want to act like they know about this stuff. You don't know nothing. You're just tricking people in some little country town about what you do. If you want to learn, go ask Matt Reed. Go immerse yourself in it. Go to Thailand and stay at a temple. But to do some of the stuff, I don't want to sound like, again, a cranky old bastard, but it just disappoints me. These guys go out and they've got these flash mongkongs on and all these armbands, and then they fight like retards. They fight like man, I've seen my mum could probably throw better punches. Like it's about people forgetting it's about fighting first. If it was football, we'd be saying it's about football first. Muay Thai is an art. And yes, there's cultural stuff that comes with it from Thailand. But if you're a Muslim, you don't care about that. If you're just want to win fights, you just want to win fights. It's not that you don't love Muay Thai. People are getting too wrapped into this Pakamas, Mongkongs, magic. Man, magic don't do anything. Hey, you're talking to me. Hey, there's been many times I've sat in Asia and thought, like man, when in the end, if you love yourself and you believe in yourself here, you'll get through anything. If you're depending on some lucky charm, yes. They told me a story when I was in Thailand. They say, here's a rock, here's an amulet. Which one's stronger? The one you believe in. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And I'm not taking the piss out of religion. I'm not taking the piss out of anything. I'm just saying that too many people are getting fooled by trainers that are charlatans that make out like they know all this stuff. Man, you went to Thailand, you went to Phuket. You just hung out on the beach and then came back and told your students you were training. Got a few photos. It's easy to be a rock star these days. Instagram, all that. Don't ever forget that fighting is about fighting.
Yeah, and I guess like now we live in a very marketing-centric age. Every gym likes to call themselves the most. They like this allure of we're a traditional gym. We're a traditional Muay Thai gym. We're not like that gym down the road. We're traditional, and they've got all the bells and whistles.
You've been to the gym. You come yourself to. If you didn't realise, not even a kilometre, maybe 800 metres, I don't know, maybe a kilometre, you got Fight Centre up the road. Another way over this way, we got Iron Fist. All good gyms, all full of people. One thing I know about life, not everybody fits in everywhere. Some people feel really happy here at this gym. Other people don't feel happy. It's you've got to find your happy place. Your happy place might be the Fight Centre. It might be Iron Fist. It might be on the Gold Coast at Strike Force or Boon Chew. But when you pick a gym, pick a good gym. Do your research and don't be fooled by some guy who tells you they had 200 fights and they've done this, they've done that. There's no one in Australia that's had 200 fights. That one fight, I think Bruce McPhee had the most fights. And I'm not talking Thais here that are trainers working at gym. I'm talking Aussie guys. Bruce McPhee would have had the most fights, and I reckon it would be about 160. Yeah. John Wayne close behind him on 100 and something. But other than those two, nobody. Hey, man, I come from an era when you had 10 fights, you were a veteran. You know what I mean? So, and not showing it up, but I had 52 fights in an era where if you had 10 fights, you were good. So these days, I think it's gone backwards a little bit because another thing, like these belts and everything hanging off everybody. Don't stop fighting for these bullshit belts. Like, it's nice to get a belt. Don't get me wrong. You fight for a certain belt on a show. You get your belt for the night, and it's a good for the pictures. It's good. You earned that. But never forget, fighting's about fighting. It's about who you fought. How many fights have you had? If you've had 10 wins and you've been hand selected those 10 wins to a guy that's fought anyone that the promoter will put in front of him, and he's had 20 fights, 10 losses, 10 wins, man, I like the 10 losses, 10 win guy because he's a fighter. He won, gone are the days of the journeyman. You know what I mean? Look at Jimmy Shannon. Jimmy Shannon's another that had a lot of fights in Queensland. So it's all about, I think people are forgetting fighting is about fighting. You've got to fight.
Yeah. And what we've got going on in New South Wales, because we're touching a lot on Queensland, but from the New South Wales perspective, is we were speaking with this a lot. We talked to Sai last week. That episode will come out in the next couple of days, probably right before this one. And he obviously promotes probably the top show in Australia, right up there with, the top show in his region. And he says fighters are winning all of these belts. And in New South Wales, we've got a lot of it because amateur titles, amateur Australian, South Pacific, whatever champion. And they're coming to Rebellion and saying, yeah, look, put me on your show because I've got this belt and that belt. And they've never fought anyone good. They've fought in their own backyards. It's like we've got to take development level fights. That's good. You get your numbers up. But we've got promoters here just slapping a title on all of these fights that are supposed to just be for experience.
Same thing, Hugh. The promoters have to be responsible now. And they have to be responsible to do the right thing by the sport. And as much as slapping the titles on going to sell you an extra 200 tickets because this kid, he's going to bring heaps of people because he's fighting for the belt. Hey, sometimes you got to do the right thing by the sport. Don't whack only sell 100 of those tickets and do the right thing. Like it's hard to explain. And there'll be guys that are going to say, man, why would I do that when I can make this much money? But that's how you build something. And that's how we build evolution, by doing the right thing by not just the fighters, but also by the crowd. So on ticket price back in the day, if we charged what we were charging for Evo at West Leagues Club, it would never have grown. You have to, everything built as the show gets bigger, the tickets get more expensive. Of course, that's part of any business. As it expands, it gets bigger. You've got to pay more. I'm sure you used to probably be able to watch rugby league for free at the local football club, and now there's NRL. You've got to go to the thing and pay for the ticket. Yeah.
So I guess, do you think there's less understanding now of investing in the start to develop something big, and more so people are just saying, rather than building towards having these big fights that people will really pay money for, I'll just pretend this is a fight worth paying money for by giving a title to someone.
You, to be honest, sorry.
Yeah.
To be honest, if you go over the history of Muay Thai and that, Paul Demacoli and myself spoke about it recently. Fighters anymore. If you look at Evo, we had Bruce McPhee, John Wayne, Warren Elson. I'm just thinking the Eli Madigan. There's so many names, so many like so many fighters, and I apologize to the ones that I don't mention, but like I really see there isn't the pool of fighters now. Do you know what I mean? So when, I'm only speaking Queensland and maybe a little bit Melbourne because I see a lot of Melbourne stuff. I believe boxing has taken over so much. While I was away, boxing's the new man. We were killing boxing in the at Evo stage. Boxers were fighting on our show. We were putting on a boxing fight just to help out the boxing.
Yeah.
Now, boxing kills Muay Thai. Everybody, and it's not just everybody's a boxing or into boxing. My class is here. Steve Wajenko runs a boxing class, 50 people in it. You know what I mean? Like people want to box and they're attracted to it. And it's not really, it's probably because they're doing it correctly. They're running good shows, getting quality fights. Look at Ben Mahoney. We lose one of our own fighters, like a fucking magical Muay Thai fighter, like
great
fucking
fighter.
Really tough kid, fucking technically beautiful, fucking marketable, fucking like look at him, like it looks like a model, marketable, everything, a promoter's dream. Where did he go? Boxing.
Where the opportunities were.
Do I blame him? No, because he gets paid. It's part of life. But what the promoters don't see is the boxing people have a thing like where they pay per round. They've got they've got a system, and it doesn't matter where you go in Queensland, Sydney, Melbourne, Perth. It's all around the same thing, the same price, the same everything. Whereas Muay Thai, to the other states, I apologise, but I'm really hammering Queensland. These idiots don't know what they're paying. Like you're paying one kid this much, you're paying this. Like the fighters have no idea, and the promoters don't have much of an idea. The new promoters, that is, not the old promoters. So, and when I say old promoters, I'm talking Paul Demacoli, I'm talking Mark Pease, I'm talking Joe Hilton. Talking, I think that, again, I'm sorry if I forgot anyone, but there's not many left. The dinosaurs are all slowly going. So this new age group of promoters that are prancing around thinking the big guns, well, you're killing the sport. I see it with my eyes. I've got photos from my old shows. I got 5,000 people in the crowd. You got not even 800, and you're trying to prance past me like you're some rock star. Relax a bit, bro.
Yeah, and so I guess off of a couple of points you made, because I could just talk to you all day.
Right? The three heads come out of me.
But I wanted to circle back off of what we've just heard. I've got a couple of similar questions to ask you. And the first one is, I'm going to give you a little bit of a hypothetical. Let's say we could get all kind of the main promoters of Australia and everyone who wants to promote shows together. We've got them in a room, and what we're trying to talk about is you're giving them a talk, and the talk is here's how we build Australian Muay Thai.
Am I allowed to slap anyone in this?
Mate, that's your business. You can run your talk wherever you want, right? But so it's hosted by yourself. Here's how we build Australian Muay Thai. What are the central things that you're going to try to tell these promoters? Like what you got them all sitting in front of you. They've got their notepads out.
Communication number one. Let go of your egos number two. And like, hey, there's be 100 people watching this saying, "I'm not the biggest ego." Hey, everybody's got an ego. If you think you don't, everyone has some form of ego. Some bigger than the others. Maybe mine's a bit bigger than it should be, but hey, like I said, I'm getting old. I can pull that card. I would say communication, let go of the ego, and work together. And look, at the end of the day, you got to look at this. It's not the old promoters. Blair and Si are good mates. They work together. Paul Demacoli and his brothers in Melbourne work with Si, work with Blair, work with whoever. It's these new guys. I'm not just picking on the new era. They just don't get it. Pay your respect. If you go to Thailand, they all bow at Pet Yindi. They all bow at Mr. Chon. They all bow. And hey, man, I was all about the bowing and all that when I was young. I'm not fucking bowing to anyone anymore. I don't bow. Those days for me are over. But come and show your respect. Be respectful. I see guys at fights that I know that I've talked to them before, and just because they feel a certain way, they'll get all macho and puff up and let all that shit go, bro. It's not like you've like done anything. Come and say hello. Come and learn. Come and learn how to survive in this business 30-something years, because that's what's going to help the sport. It's not going to help by you trying to build your own little pebble over here. Yeah.
Well, it's like, I think also in a lot of ways, one thing I've said a few times is I think what holds us back in Muay Thai is people are unwilling to be fans. Like, how does the sport grow? It has fans. It has people that want to buy tickets and just enjoy the spectacle. And I'm a Muay Thai fan. I think once people want to elevate above that status, they don't want to just be a fan. They think it's beneath them. They want to be a promoter, be a fighter, at all sides.
Story. I got a funny story. I'm not going to name the fighter, but the fighter's dad used to buy tickets off me and Josh for Evo, and I can be our best mate and whatever. There's a few Queensland suspects for this. Another one is a promoter that used to was not a promoter when I was in Queensland in 2012 buying tickets. When I come back, one's a promoter and one's a trainer. Man, they've never even walked over and said hello. They've never even nothing. They act like, oh, where's the sport now? That's the thing that's not letting Muay Thai work, whether it's just Queensland or whether it's the whole country. But if I look at the bigger names in Thai boxing, and I'm going to throw them out there, you got Andrew Parnham in Sydney, you got Lewis Regis, you got Sai and Hammer and Johnny Skidder and that in Melbourne, you got Mr. D, Mark Pease, you got the Boon Chu Gym, you got different people there. You got Perth, you've got Pon, Darren Kurovic, Blair and that. Like there's enough old guys there. In South Australia, Ethan Shep, even Pink. Look at Pinky. Pinky's worked his way up the ladder. That's a dude that, hey, anyone can say what they want about Pinky. And hey, me and Pinky have had our ups and downs, but at the end of the day, he's done his time. He deserves to stay in Iran because he fucking lived like 9 years in Thailand in a room that I know had no aircon. He's done it hard. But now look at him. He's going good. He's training a few fighters. He's got a gym happening. Like, it's all about doing your time. If you look at anything, in any corporation, you've got to do your time. In any group of society, football club, bikie club, I don't know, you've got to do your time. You can't just jump in front. No one's going to respect you. You've got to work your way up the ladder.
Yeah, and which brings me to kind of my next point. And I think a lot of the themes are going to be similar, but of course, we've talked a lot about kind of promoting and how we keep, that side of the sport growing. But of course, you're a very high level trainer as well, former fighter. Same scenario. You've got a room full of Australia's up and coming fighters, everyone who wants to be a champion. And the same question is, here's what you need to do to grow as fighters. Here's what you need to change.
All right. Here's a perfect one.
Yep.
Stop copying YouTube. Stop copying Instagram and watching people. Stop making the fucking Thai noise when you don't know why you do it. I see a lot of guys holding pads and they'll tell the guy, do this, but they don't tell the guy why you should do that. And that's something I see with Kane. I got a young boy, Kane, here, definitely a rising star. He's so like a sponge. I can tell him one thing, bam, he's onto it. Like he really listens. So if I'm only telling him a certain way to do something, but I'm not telling him why he's doing it, he doesn't learn. He only learns one dimension of something. A lot of these out there, I think, like the same thing. They look phenomenal. Their bodies are phenomenal. they're fucking muscly, they look good, whatever. But you've got to have a bit of experience. Not just, you don't be the best fighter in the world, but man, at least have a fight or at least have a go. You know what I mean? And people are going to say, oh, yeah, but this Joe Hilton and I have been friends forever. Joe didn't have fights because in his era, there was only karate fights. Now, he probably had heaps of karate fights, but he never, ever fought Thai boxing because it wasn't his era. And no, nobody's sitting here judging. But these other idiots, I hear all these different trainers. I don't want to say names, but it's not hard. It's not hard to work out who they are in Queensland. They're always crying and saying, but I haven't had that many fights, but I haven't done this. No one's pointing at you, bro. That's your own insecurity. That's your own weakness as a man, because you really know you're an imposter. There's so many imposters running around with Thai pads. It damages the sport. Like I've met so many good trainers from when I started this sport. Like I mentioned earlier, Lolo Hamuli. Man, I had a moment with Dana Goodson's son, Aaron, at the fights because, man, I loved his dad. I hardly knew him. I only met him on trips away. But in that time, say I met him 5 times in my life, he taught me 5 of the most valuable things I ever learned about the fight game. And when I met him at the fights, like I'm getting shivers now talking about it. Like, man, his dad was a legend of the sport. This is the thing. People forget that. And then, he's forgotten. Next one. Who's the next hot? There's so many trainers that have so much knowledge. And it's not, you don't have to train the best fighters. You don't have to train 20 world champions. But if you've had fighters on the circuit for so long, you're learning stuff. You're understanding the game through traveling, through dressing rooms. Man, that's why I'm always out the back. I'm always out the back because I like watching people. I like seeing what they do out the back. And, and quite honestly, I can pick a dude that is a good trainer and not a good trainer, just like I can pick a boy that's going to be a good fighter and not a good fighter.
And how much do you think, like, compared to, I suppose, the before you went away, when you were in the back, do you see more trainers now that you look at and go, what's he doing?
Yeah, I see a lot. I see a lot. I see a lot on Instagram. I see a lot, and I see all these dudes up doing these motivational talks and rah, 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 rah. I don't know. There's the dark guy from America, David, somebody, a Marine dude,
David Goggins.
All right, David Goggins. There's only one fucking David Goggins.
Yeah.
Don't try to be David Goggins. Just let him be him and you be you. Don't try, like so many dudes try to get this going on Instagram, and it just makes me have a giggle to myself. If the trainers realize it's not about getting it right, man, I made many mistakes. Hey, I go to the boxing last Saturday, 2 Saturday nights ago, and we have our boy Ricky fighting, and in the corner, like, man, I'm a veteran in the corner. They passed me the bag to put the ice on the back of his neck, and someone forgot to pull our fucking ice went everywhere. Hey, whose fault's that? That's my fault. Because in the end of the day, I didn't check the thing when I fucking put it out on the thing. But straight away, I didn't stop doing what I did. I just whacked what was left in the bag on his neck and flicked with my foot and then keep talking and keep working the corner with Steve. It's those experiences. When you make mistakes, you learn so much from it. I think too many guys are trying to be the perfect corner man and the perfect trainer and the perfect fighter. Like man, you just be you.
Yeah, and I think, and this is life as well. It's anything. If you're so afraid, if you're so obsessed with looking like you know what you're doing that you kind of aren't willing to make mistakes or own up to mistakes, you never actually become who you're pretending to be. Because anyone who is that genius, that mastermind person, like you're just getting into now, they've made it, all the mistakes.
I got beaten by Gott in chess this morning. You can lose, you know what I mean? Like that's going to affect me for the rest of my life. No, joking, but really, like people are too worried about what other people are going to think. Man, make a mistake, do something wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think and it comes back to, I think in everything that we touched on today, whether it's the fighters, the promoters, the trainers, it does come back to that central idea of like, don't let your ego be the roadblock in how you develop and how you actually sort of pull
Yeah,
everything together.
yeah, definitely.
What I was also interested to ask, because I know it can become a little bit of a, a doom and gloom thing when we talk about the current state of Australian Muay Thai. Who do you like? You mentioned you don't get to a lot of shows now. Who do you like to watch that's on the scene at the moment?
Well, I really like Ramesh, the headhunter.
Mesh, yep.
I really rate Ramesh. It's sad that I'm seeing Roy Wills have his last fight. Roy's a top bloke, a good bloke, trains hard. Like, hey, think. I always tease him because he knocked out Daddy Cool, and I say not on my watch, but I wasn't in the corner. But hey, man, he's done his time and fought some great fights. Who else do I like watching? That's, you put me on the spot there a little bit. I liked Ben Mahoney when he was fighting. When I was away, I often watched. Mr. D would send me links to Eruption, and I'd see Ben Mahoney fight on there a lot. As far as Thai boxing, this sounds real, and I don't want to sound like a rude cunt. It's not that much talent running around. You know what I mean? I hear a lot of good things about Max McVicker.
Yeah.
In
Max
WA, George Mann, but George Mann's a giant. Like he should be stomping everyone. He's so big. Charlie Bubb's probably the hottest thing we got at the moment, running around. And hey, to say he can't fight, you'd be kidding yourself. He's definitely got his own style and his own way of doing it. But I went and watched the Prince show in Melbourne. Watched the 8 Man. Oh man, Charlie owned everything in that.
That bloke's unreal.
And I'm really looking forward to watching Rocky fight on Eruption.
Yeah, that would be great.
Another good, because I haven't seen him fight live before, so I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, and that's about it. And I used to like watching Lewis Regis fight. He always put 100% in that.
Yeah, awesome style, Lewis Regis. Well, you mentioned two fighters there. I'll put you on the spot again. Charlie and George are obviously going to fight each other over in WA next month. Do you have a pick there?
Go again?
Do you have a pick out of that fight?
Look, it's a hard one because George is he's so tall, and you can't beat George's knees. And with Riddler in the corner, Riddler's a very smart trainer. I don't give Riddler enough raps when we talk. You know, I like WA. Who remembers WA? It's so far away. So much desert. But Riddler is a great trainer. Same thing. Was a good fighter, great trainer, good promoter. So I would say with Riddler in the corner and Charlie's technique in that, not Charlie, George's technique in that, I think Charlie has to be careful. Charlie, I think, would be a heavier puncher, easy.
Yep.
But as far as like Muay Thai, and it's on a Thai boxing show, the judges will definitely be judging correct Thai boxing. It's a hard one. Hey, Mr. Demicoli manages Charlie, so I'm caught in between. I just think it's going to be a cracker fight. Like
amazing fight.
Either boy they're the both best. So it doesn't.
Yeah. And in a lot of ways, I think that's the kind of fight that we need. It's a fight that you look at and the community goes, that's the fight. You don't see that much anymore.
But here's one for you. Who do they fight after this fight? There's nobody left. And that's the fact. When Evo was around, John Wayne would fight Preacher. Preacher might lose, and then he would fight Soren or Eli. And then John Wayne would fight the next. Like there was such a good balance of fighters, and they all. I suppose the whole era. Like it started when Soren and Pixie and Humpty and that were all in the 63 kilo mark, 60, 63. Everyone moved up through weight divisions and they just knew each other. I suppose. It sounds weird when you say you can't compare it to the top. You know, when I hear Golden Era and all that, you can't compare it to the real ties like Num Kabun, all those guys, Deadly Kisser, all that era. But in our own way, it was like that to us. You know what I mean? But just not the skill level of the Thais. But they were still tough boys battling it out every show.
Yeah. And do you think, I guess, what was sort of missing from, like, to again bring it back to something that we touched on, is everyone's talking about going for this title or going for that title, whereas in that era, I think what made it so popular is it was just about, here's your top 5-6 guys, and they're all going to fight each other, and then they'll all fight each other in this show, and then shake them up, they'll all fight each other in the next combination, and it really built their brands and their character.
Yeah, I think that helped a lot. But I see it here, Hugh. I see a lot of guys around the same weight, but they're too worried about a kilo or 500 kilo. They're getting too like crazy about weights and this and that. Just give the crowds a good fight. You know, like don't worry so much about, he's this. I'm not telling you to give 10 kilos away. I'm not saying give 5 kilos away. But when it's a kilo and a half, come on, man. Like do it for the fans. Like take that.
Do it for the fans,
and the fans are gonna love you for it, and they're gonna give back for you doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess a question that I'm interested to kind of tie this all together on is, you've seen Australian Muay Thai at its absolute height. You've seen Muay Thai all over the world. Really, one of the most really hands-on experienced people that we have in the sport. You obviously have kind of some, sort of, you have some issues with the way things are going at the moment. Do you think the best of Australian Muay Thai has come and gone, or do you think we can go back? Do you think we can bring back to old height?
Me, the fighter in me, is never going to agree to that. He's never going to say it's gone, because I will never die on my knees. I wouldn't let it happen like that. But it's really sad times. So and I don't want to sound like the bearer of bad news, and I don't want people to say, fuck, Nuggets not very positive about. Man, I'm positive. I'm running a mad gym. I got good fights coming through. I got, in every aspect, I got Thai boxers, I got boxers, I got MMA fighters. I got them all coming through. But as far as Muay Thai, from what it was, it's sad. But I think, this is me, and I hope Mr. D is watching this, I'm putting my cookies in the eruption barrel straight away, and I'm going to do everything I can to help him and his sons that run the show push that to being the event, to be like Rebellion is of Melbourne. Yeah, I want eruption to be of thing, and then it's up to them. It's also, people forget, as promoters, there's got to be some competition as well. I'm not saying you got to work in and do everything to suck each other off. I'm saying you got to help each other, but also be competitive against each other. And I think that's what Evo, Josh and I, we never let anyone beat us. If someone tried to say, we're going to put this fight on, we'd say, okay, you put that fight on. It's like poker. You're like, push your hand up and be, we're going to put this fight and this fight on. And we just kept pushing it and pushing it. And we forced the other promoters to do their best. Because if they didn't do their best, people saw it and would cut them.
Yeah, I guess if you kind of establish a certain baseline, everyone only has to meet that standard. But if you've always got someone
right now, people are happy just to put on a little show, make a little bit of pocket money, and they're not actually looking about for the future of the sport. And also, they're not looking out. Man, I've got 3 little kids in my gym. I got many little kids, but I got 3 little boys that fight and 1 little girl, Kiana. And people aren't seeing that those kids have to fight one day. They have to get fights and build up their thing. If their biggest thing is fighting on some shitty little show out the back, what are they getting out of life? They've got to have goals. And that's where eruption, kids are starting to see, man, they do a Siam Cup here. Jamie Todslin runs a Siam Cup. Best idea ever. All the kids.
Great show.
I don't like the in the head rule. There's one of my boys can't punch in the head. I don't like that. But as you get older and as you get experience, thing, they take off the pads and they do this. A little bit like Bama as well.
Yep.
If you asked me, Hugh, like years ago, if you said who were the top states in Australia for Muay Thai, I would have said 1,000,000% Queensland number one, with a bit of a battle with WA, right?
Yeah.
WA, Queensland running 1 and 2. 3 would have been maybe between Sydney and Melbourne or South Australia because of Nisa Fury.
Yeah,
right?
Nisa Fury was
But
good.
3, 4, and 5 weren't really. It was that much of a 3's down. These two are here. But now I've actually seen, and this is before COVID. I don't know about after COVID. I thought Melbourne was coming really strong.
Yeah.
Like, strong. That Sydney's definitely changed because you got to remember back in the day, the only 2 Muay Thai fighters from Sydney were Marcus Mangan, Mad Dog, and Dale Middleton, and that they fought big names like they fought the Thais, they fought Tony. Marcus Mangan stopped Tony Hill. I'm pretty sure I remember. Dale Middleton fought Sana Pinoy in Perth. Like there was some big matches from those boys, and they were trained by a Thai called Sung Doi. I don't know whether you had heard that name.
Yeah,
Sung Doi was a good trainer, but other than that, until and like, don't get me wrong, there was always fighting in Sydney. Mick Binks, hey, your boss, hey, that you can't as far, but he was more from like the kickboxing and
kickboxing,
like
definitely.
and the boxing that. Man, you can't get a pioneer before Mick Binks in Sydney. There's no other name. I would never argue that. Even I used to read about Mick in magazines. You know what I mean?
He's a legend.
Yeah, so
a legend of legends.
But that period, when Queensland started to get a roll, Marcus Mangan and Dale Middleton were pretty much the only 2 Thai boxers that really existed strong there. Then came, after that, now the era of Lewis Regis and Andrew Parnham as the main man, face of Sydney Muay Thai. I would say it's going in the right direction now.
Yeah.
A lot better than it was. And I'm not paying out on old Johnny Ainu because I don't want to hear his voice. Rah, 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 yeah. but Johnny Ainu and that, they ran a lot of shows, but they did it for their own little thing. They didn't really do it. They didn't really. Johnny's a great bloke, good dude. I got no problem with him, but he just ran his show like to entertain himself and his mates. He didn't have a base of where he wanted it to go. Obviously, it was more, he did everything: kickboxing, boxing, Thai boxing, did everything. But
MMA too, yeah.
Sydney now has got a good group of people that love Muay Thai and that are taking Muay Thai to where it should be. But I do believe, and it guts me saying it, Melbourne, every state's got to watch out for Melbourne because the ability to be the power state. 1, because they've got Sai. 2, they got Hammer. And 3, they've got a lot of Thais there training. So it's a very scary situation. And when I look and see the trainers in Queensland, I think, well, most of your guys couldn't even fight boys the Thais train. So it sort of gets to the thing. WA is still good because, hey, they got old school gyms. Cowsock, they got Blair, the Pit. They got, the gyms there are old, like Pond. They're all old school Thai boxing gyms, and that they punch on. They know how to train.
Yeah.
But now this new era of people, hey, fighting. You're going to fight. You got to train hard.
Yeah, and that's like I mentioned. We chatted to Sai last week, and that episode will come out just before this one. And you talk about the work that Rebellion's done. It's played such a hand in making Melbourne a powerhouse state because it all comes from the top, right? Like when young fighters can look at Rebellion and aspire to be on Rebellion, the same way that young MMA fighters all want to go and fight in the UFC. They need that pinnacle to look to.
Yeah.
But Sai was talking to us. He's very, quite similarly to yourself, he's quite disheartened with how Muay Thai is going and how the fighters, his real issue is with the fighters, the way that they choose these short-term rewards titles, and that it makes him much less enthusiastic to host. such an incredible show. And he basically said to us last week, fighters, I'll promote for one more year and I'll give you the chance to fix your shit. And if you don't change, I'm out. That's what he said to us last week.
You know, that's Sai's prerogative to do that, but it's a sad day for Melbourne. If Sai promoting in Melbourne, it puts a lot of pressure on Mark the Hammer. One, because he'll go into the number one spot and you know, running his massive gym and having the headaches of those. I say, hey, me and Hammer are good mates. Everyone knows it. I see the drama he has, business and the shows. It kills him. So, like, I feel sorry for Melbourne if that's the case. But I think Sai's just saying that. I think he's just.
He has said he's going to quit a few times.
I think we've all said it in our time. That's it. Last show. Not doing it again. So.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're listening to this and you're a fighter, it's worth considering. Like, you know, Nugget, you've just mentioned, Melbourne's become a powerhouse largely off the back of having this big promotion, and it's still the fighters can't behave in a way that makes promoters want to do the work.
Yeah, but all right, now we're going to get back to this thing I spoke to earlier off the camera, the entitlement. Like, I feel like, hey, I went to Asia for 7.5 years. I was supposed to go for 3 months, ended up 6 months, ended up going for 7.5 years. I go, all right. I had fun, I enjoyed it, but what I saw when I got back, all these people think they're entitled to everything. Like, oh, Nugget, you spoke to me rudely. Shut your mouth. You like you know what you're getting if you come and work for me. That's how I'm going to speak to you. And as far as like you've got to earn respect. You can't just think, oh well, I'm doing this. So I'm the operationals manager. You're not even a monkey's asshole. You're just a person that's been given a title that didn't know anything, and you were exposed, and then you run around. I see it in young people. It's not. Look, I'm not saying society's become weak, but it's not like it used to be. There were channels of. It's like we talked about promoting. There's channels of doing things, whether it be at your work or at the gym. You have to earn your respect in a place where you're staying. You can't just think, oh, yeah, I got it in Asia, man. I went to Asia. Yeah, I'm Nugget in Australia and everyone knows me. In some of the places I trained, especially Europe as well, when I got there, language barrier, I can't tell them, oh, yeah, I've done this, I've worked here. I got to show them on the pack.
Show them, yeah.
I fight them pretty much. And I think going away for those 7.5 years, it actually, as much as this would make people annoyed, it actually gave me more confidence. I was already confident, but it gave me more confidence because I've survived. And I say to any guy in Australia, go overseas and see how long you last. Go over with a bit of money in your pocket and see how long you last. I lasted 7.5 years abroad doing a hard sport. It's not as easy as you think. And I think coming back to Australia, seeing all this stuff, you know, like everybody's about like, I don't even know the big words for it. I can't even, but like everyone's all about this, oh, you know, equal rights and this and that. Well, if you want to, hey, you come to my gym and you're a girl or a boy, I'm going to treat you the same. I'm going to kick you in the leg the same as I kick the boy. And if you cry about it, you're not a fighter. You think you're a fighter, but you're not a fighter. You can go out with the world champion. You can be the world champion's girl. I find this in people. I've seen it. You can be the world champ's girlfriend. That don't make you know how to fight. You don't know how to fight because you're the girlfriend of the guy that can fight good. You have to do it yourself. There's so many young people point the stick at someone like me and say, oh, you're like a narcissist, or you're like this, or you're like, man, use your big words. Fuck off with your big words. It's a box. You come here and do boxing or fight. You know what I mean? Don't use your education to try to get in and make out like you can fight because you know how to stretch properly, or you know how to do some, I don't know, some gay thing that they've learned at uni. Fighting is about fighting. You do it in the gym. You hit the bag, you hit the pads, and you spar. You grapple clean, and you make your body strong. If you can't handle what one gym gives, maybe it's either not for you or go to another gym. Yeah. I think people are a bit weaker these days. We didn't. Sorry to interrupt. We didn't have the options when I was young. I walked in the first. That was the gym I trained at till I finished. You know what I mean? You didn't have the options that they do now. So these young girls and guys just flick from gym to gym, and then when the trainer doesn't do what they want them to do, or when the trainer has a bad day and says shut up and whatever, they take it personal and they're crying. These people never make it well. The kids like Kane Singleton, the kids like the Bone Man Max Rooney, they're that make it in this sport, and I've seen it because I treat Soren and Daddy Cool no different to how I treat Kane and Bone Man. So it's the same methods, but just a new era.
And that's, I think, one of the things about Muay Thai and about fighting in general, is that it's like things change, a lot of things change, but really so much of it is, so much of the core does just stay the same. You know, like people are always trying to change this and change that and reinvent the wheel.
Don't get me going on strength and conditioning. Don't get me going. But Hugh, here's another one. When I went away for 7.5 years, I left this gym and I'm not bagging Soren, I'm not saying anything, but I left this gym and there were still champion fighters, and it was still a gym. You fight one of my boys, it's gonna be a fight. Daddy Cool says it perfectly. Don't change what already works.
Yeah. If it ain't broken, don't fix it, right?
Already work. Yeah. If it's not broken, don't fix it. And I've come back, and obviously in the 7.5 years I was away, I did learn a few different things, different to my style of training, which I've adapted and grabbed onto and put into my style. But it's like you say, training when I trained as a fighter, it hasn't. If you want to be successful and strong, it hasn't changed that much to now. Do you know what I mean? There's just more. There's a bit more work on recovery, a bit more work on like making your body better. But other than that, man, fighting's just hard. Hey, it wouldn't be called fighting if it was easy.
Yeah, and it comes back as well, I think, to that. There's so many trainers that are just looking to appease their own egos, that they want to be the inventor of some new way to do something and come up with these crazy new ways of training fighters, when like really, yes, the book's written on how to become a successful fighter. There's tweaks, but a lot of it's at its core, it doesn't change that much.
I always go back to football. I always go back to rugby league, and I'm not a great rugby league fan or anything. I dabbled with it, but you know, everyone loves rugby league. I look at it and think they still train similar to how they would have years ago, but it's a bit more like the science of it's probably changed a little bit, and the recovery stuff, like I say, like this, recovery centers and that. But people don't understand. Your body in Thai boxing has to be hard. You can't do all this stuff soft, or take care of this, man. You have a period of time, your fight career. After that, that's up to you. But in that time where you're fighting, there's no easy way about it. If you're gonna kick someone with your shin's gonna get hurt. You're not gonna be able to go and have an operation and get a metal shin. That don't work. It doesn't work like that. You have to kick that bag 2,000 times. You have to do whatever to make your body hard. And a lot of people forget, to be at the top end of the sport, you have to do this hard training. There's no easy way. It's just the one way.
You can't work around it.
You can't work around
it. Done.
Like my gym, there's one way of doing it, my way.
Absolutely. Now, I could honestly do this for about 6 hours, but I don't want to keep you all day, take too much more of your time. We'll just close on what you've got a lot in the works. NTG, Fight and Fitness, is firing, doing shows in there, teaching classes. What coming up for you? Anything you've got in the works that the people should know about?
Eruption. We've got Eruption coming up.
Yeah.
On the poster. Eruption. I watch this. There you go.
There we are.
Right there.
Massive card. Absolutely massive card.
Junior fighting a boy from Sydney, actually. I get to see Rocky fight. And the Dingo's on there.
Jay Tonkin and James Honey. That's a match.
You know what?
That is a match.
I met Jay Tonkin when he fought on one of my shows that I did in Thailand. And he fought, like, man, that dude, I don't know why he should have been fighting in Australia his whole time as well. He's really talented. I'm looking for that fight as well. So
and good to see him back. It's been a couple of years since he's been in the ring, and he's a super experienced guy. He's fought Singdam, fought Chamak Tong,
loves the elbow. I just know that he's got him and Rocky will be my fight of the night. I better take that back because Junior listens to this. Junior Tapper, just an entertainer.
Yeah, Junior fighting one of Andrew's boys. It's always good to see Junior. Well,
it'll be a really good fight. I know it will be.
Yeah, and let the people know if they're unfamiliar where they can follow you, where they can follow the gym, where they can keep up with you.
I personally don't have Facebook or any of that. I don't like it. I got Instagram. If you want to follow my page on Instagram, Nugget McNaught, or you can follow the gym NTG Fight and Fitness. But everything's up to date. I put stuff up all the time, put a few funny stories up and that. So anything like that, jump, have a laugh.
You can see a lot of the man eats well. You can see a lot of the.
I've cut down. I mean, we've got cooking a lot now.
Yeah, I see that.
Got him a lot more. Got is a really good cook. So he cooks a little bit down here. So
yeah, next time I'm up that way, I need to hit God up for a meal because it looks like he can cook.
Down here, do a bit of training, then we'll eat after.
Yeah, I would love that. Look, thanks so much, Nugget. Like I said, probably could have let this go all day. You've got a lot. It's really good to have you back on the scene. I think you've got a lot of insight that people can learn really well from. I hope fighters listen to this. Hope just people in the community listen to this and gain some understanding from someone who's really been there and done that. You know what we need to get back to former heights. I hope we can do more of these as time goes on because you know I know you've just got so much insight to offer.
Yeah. I'm
grateful for your time.
I'm getting old, turn into an old bloke. My 50th, so look out.
Awesome. Yeah. Everyone, if you're not sort of super familiar with Nugget, like I said, jump on and follow him on Instagram. Keep up with Eruption, buy the stream, support the shows that are really trying to raise the level of Muay Thai here, support the people that are worth supporting. Nugget, take care of yourself, mate. Hope to speak to you again very soon.
Thanks, bro.
Everyone, thank you for listening. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Combat Chat Podcast. Please drop us a like on YouTube. Leave us a little review on iTunes, wherever you catch us, so we can keep having guests like this. It's been an awesome couple of weeks. Talk to Nugget, talk to Sai, talk to Mark Pease. Grateful for everyone jumping on that, jumps on and listens, and really grateful for superstars such as yourself, Nugget, for getting on and talking to us. So, yeah, thanks very much, Nugget. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.